Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Happy Sunday. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend, getting some good food, watching some football maybe, spending time with family, whatever it is that you're doing. Hope you're just enjoying it. But welcome back. We got a lot of things to discuss, so let's just go ahead and dive in. First, we're going to discuss what we witnessed last week as far as, the price action. Then we'll get into what I'm looking at as far as levels for tomorrow. And then what we are going to look at is, possible setups for the week that I might be watching, as well as events, because we are finally going to start getting some data. Thank you to the government shutdown ending. So finally, some government data that we can play off of, maybe introduce a little bit more volatility. Who knows? Not to mention, we got the big one. NVDA earnings are on Wednesday, so we'll take a brief look at that. All right, so let's dive in. This is the S&P Futures 1-hour chart, the ES. Let's go ahead and just take a breakdown of what happened last week and all the excitement. Let's start off by looking at last Thursday. We're going to start out by looking at last Thursday. We had this sharp move lower, followed by a little bit of a bear flag here. All right, we had a little bit of a bounce, and then during the overnight session, we completely flushed. All right, usually when we get these kind of flushes, first off, you don't want to start to chase and knife catch, which is bad, or try to play the bounce, because honestly, there's no telling where it's going to bounce. When you try to play the bottom, yeah, you're going to get hurt, because most likely it's just going to keep going lower. You want things to settle in. But what we had this nice little false breakdown. We can see we can draw a line right here at around 67.30, give or take. We finally started to base out and reclaim down here, and we had this sharp move higher, all right? And this led to continuation into Monday at the start of the week. Price actions finally started to move higher. We got a nice little bull flag going into Tuesday. Finally, Wednesday, we got that continuation all the way into Thursday. And Thursday is where we started to... Actually, this is Wednesday, isn't it? Excuse me. So Wednesday is when we started to finally get a little bit of a lower high here, right? So here's our high. Here's our lower high. We pretty much traded sideways all day. Thursday, now we're at Thursday. We finally got a expansion move here on the open. We sold off all day Thursday, pretty much all day selling. Didn't get a single green 1-hour candle until about the close. So all day selling, and let's see what happened. Friday. Going into Friday, we had this nice little bear flag. Overnight selling continued. But look what happened. We pretty much got the same move that we had on the previous week here on last Friday. And we had a nice little breakdown followed by a false breakdown here. You had this nice little hammer candle, a reclaim, and then we just kind of shot up, and from there we just kind of based off. Now we're trying to see if this bull flag can hold and we get a continuation higher. Now, is that continuation higher going to get us a good reclaim? We don't know yet. We need to see where the price action takes us, and from that leads us to what I'm looking at for Monday. So this was just a fancy little recap on what happened last week. So now we can take a look at our levels here. So you're going to see a lot of boxes, a lot of lines and stuff. So let me just kind of go over that situation. Scenario 1 here. All right, we're going to talk about the S&P. This is S&P futures again. Bulls want to pretty much hold this 67.38, 67.40. All right, if bulls can hold this level, then they need to pretty much break above 6,800, 6,805. All right, there's a few levels on the upside that we can take care of, but 68.50 is definitely going to be the key level. This is what caused the entire sell off. And if bulls can at least reclaim 68.50, see, I think this is where we've failed and broke down on last Thursday. If bulls can somehow get back above this and reclaim this, there's definitely an argument to be made that bulls have regained the structure at least. And then, of course, there's some levels up above. But for now, the key focus is try to hold 68.38, 68.40, and get towards 68.48, 68.50. All right? Now, if bulls do not hold things together and we lose this 67.38, then the next level down is pretty much going to be a retest of this false breakdown down at about 66.85, 66.88. And from there, it can get a little bit messier. There's plenty of levels to work with, of course. If you need to, screenshot this, however you want to do it, there you go. But first things first, bulls need to hold this first green zone, push over the first red zone, and then get us back to 68.50 where things broke down on Thursday. If there is controlled selling again, then yeah, you just wait for things to settle in, levels to hold, and get a reclaim of specific levels such as 66.75, and from there you can push back up. Remember, if we do have controlled selling, wait for your entries. Step one, don't knife chase and don't FOMO. Wait for proper entries. Look for bear flags, bull flags, whatever you need to look for. And then, of course, don't try to catch the bottom. When you start trying to catch the bottom, you're going to get hurt. Remember, Confucius said, man who play with bottom has stinky finger. So just don't try to do it. All right, so that's the S&P 500 futures there. Again, if you need to screenshot these levels, feel free to. Remember, bulls need to control this to get above this, to get to to get to 68.50. All right. If we start to lose 67.38, let it come down. All right. You can play the sell-offs, play the bear flags, whatever presents itself on the smaller time frames. All right, with that being said, yeah, sure, we can take a look at the NASDAQ. It's pretty much the same thing here. There's no major differences. You're going to want to see a reclaim of 25.5 on the NASDAQ in order for bulls to feel better about themselves. Again, same situation. It looks pretty similar to the S&Ps, just different numbers here. NASDAQ needs to hold 25,000. If you lose 25,000, look to see a move back down to the failed breakdown zone at about 24,750. All right, pretty similar, easy peasy. All right, with that being said, those are the levels. Now we can take a look here. We got some good stuff here next week. We finally get some good government data. Good, because we don't know if they're manipulating it or not, but we got to trust that it's good data. We get our FOMC minutes from the prior meeting. We'll get some more insight as far as the possible dissents that we had, as well as what they're feeling for the December rate cut. Usually the minutes are kind of a nothing burger, but we'll see if there's some extra volatility here just because we haven't received much economic data. So we'll keep an eye on that. That comes out on 2:00 on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we get non-farm employment. Hallelujah. We get unemployment rate. We get our unemployment claims. And remember, the Fed has been very concerned about the jobs situation. That's why they're cutting rates. They feel like it's skewed to where they need to focus on employment right now, more so than the inflation aspect. But again, it's still a fine balance with the Fed. as we've noted. But jobs, very important on Thursday. Then Friday, we get our flash manufacturing and flash services PMI. So we'll get to see some insight. There's been some slight improvement as far as the manufacturing sector goes, but it's still very much so a weak spot within the overall economy. Now, after the bell on Wednesday, we get earnings from NVIDIA. Very, very important. Very important. As you know, NVIDIA has been the main power horse and driver of the AI boom and the whole data center boom. You know, everything that NVIDIA touches is just straight gold mine. I mean, as far as, you know, chips, graphics, infrastructure, you name it, NVIDIA has its hands on a lot of different things. They're investing in a lot of different things. So this earnings report is going to be important. The consensus is about $1.25, maybe $1. Some people are putting $1.26 out there. That would be a 54% increase year over year on the EPS. It's going to be all about the guidance here on NVIDIA. So pay attention to the guidance. And then, of course, you know, how they're feeling about any kind of AI tailwinds that might be there. And, you know, see if, you know, we can get some sustained growth. I mean, if we look at the revenue here, we can see that since Q1 of 24, NVIDIA has just been on an absolute uptick here since Q1. There you go. Now, the revenue growth has, you know, slowed down, but nonetheless, they continue to outperform market standards. So are they going to deliver again? I'm not going to bet against NVIDIA, to be honest with you. But there is some good stuff that we need to pay attention to. Yeah. So there's, you know, that's just my brief synopsis. Y'all know me. I don't try to dive too deep into earnings calls because there's just so many unknowns. You don't know what's going to be said or what kind of questions are going to be asked. And there's just no sense in trying to get a headache over all that. Let them do the reporting and let the market react. All right. Now, as far as setups go, we do have some interesting things. We got Netflix splitting on Monday. They're doing a 10-for-1 split. So tomorrow, Netflix is no longer going to be $1,100. It's going to be $110. So that's exciting. Let Netflix open up. Let it do its thing. Let it adjust. It may take a few days for things to set up, but the chart's going to remain the same, right? But that is something that we want to pay attention to. Split, hooray. Can get some new investors in who now believe it is more affordable. The options chain, yeah, it's going to take some time to get used to, of course. But yeah, Costco holding up 912. If we start to see a breakdown below 912, I want to see a move pretty much to come back to about the 900, 890 zone here. I don't know why I don't have that marked. Yeah, about that 890 level. So look for a break below 912. You can use 900 as a psychological level as well. But for now, as you can see, this is holding. You can do like a put credit spread if you believe that this level is going to continue to hold. I just want to, you know, remind you that Costco is showing lower highs here on a continual basis. So the path of least resistance does seem to be lower for Costco. Maybe some troubles there for the retail giant. Moving on to Crocs. Crocs, yeah, slipping below 74. I'm looking for a move towards this 70 level. You have this nice little shooter candle. You rejected to get back over 74. I'm looking to see if this thing wants to move lower. Crocs. How often do you have to buy Croc shoes? Like once a year, once every 2 years? I mean, those things just don't break. So, you know, that's my theory, at least. Let's move on to Apple. Apple continues to struggle to get over 275. If Apple can finally get that hourly close over 275, sure. Upside potential is definitely there. However, if we do start to break down below about 260, 268, yeah, we'll say 268, we could see a move back down to about 265. There is a small gap to fill towards 263. That's something worth pay attention to. But for now, yeah, 275 is a little bit of a sticky area, and you do have this potential issue where Apple's just failing to go higher. So, and that's bearish. So, something to pay attention to there. Again, NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday. Let the algos and the crazies battle it out. But for now, you're holding 180. If you start to lose 180, 165 could be in play. So just keep that in mind. I'm not feeling too comfortable until you get back over about 200 to 202 on NVIDIA. If once NVIDIA can get over this, sure, bulls reclaim structure and all that. So there's that. Moving on to Caterpillar. Caterpillar has been in a strong uptrend. You had a strong earnings gap here. Failed to get above the bull flag. So now we're just seeing if things want to reset back up. If Caterpillar can get back over 558.22, sure, we could look for a move back towards 580. Then, of course, back over 580, you're pretty much in an argument to say, hey, we're going back over all-time highs. So we'll see if we can catch a bounce there on Caterpillar. PSX, energy name, breaking over 142. Now I'm still holding ZOM, and ZOM continues to hold 116. Looks like we're still trying to break and hold over 119. We had a brief hold over 119.50 the other day, but we pulled back in. So yeah, we'll see. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy. So we'll see if we can finally get a push over. But yeah, PSX could possibly lean. Hang on one second. Sorry about that. You know, once one starts going, they all get going, and I had one stuck in the office with me. So, all right. PSX, yeah, 142. Hold over that. Looking for a move towards 147. Looks pretty good to me. And finally, I want to talk about Meta. Meta has been absolutely leading the way down as far as the Mag 7 goes. And you'll see, you know, I got plenty of markups here. You can see where trend, you know, was lower here. Then we finally put in a new higher high, and that's when trend changed. We continued to move higher. We put in a bull flag, had a consolidation here, brief higher high, and then finally we made a new lower high. A new lower high. We had our earnings that created a huge gap right here. All right. And then we continued to move lower. So bears continue to be in control of Meta. And look, there's nothing fancy. There's no crazy moving averages. This is just simple price action. You can use your eyeballs to gauge, are we in an uptrend? Are we in a downtrend? Are we sideways? Are we making higher highs? Are we making lower highs? Are we just stuck in a box? Use your eyes. Look, you can see that we are clearly in a downtrend. Now, that doesn't mean we can't have this crazy bounce and, you know, retest, but it's important to note that bears are in control for the time being. We did hold this kind of like a failed breakdown here of about 604. Let me go down to an hourly. So you can see you do have some clusters of support down here on Meta. 604 to hold. You need to get over 614.58. Once you get over that, sure, we can catch a move towards 628. But remember, be quick taking profits. Overall picture here, Meta is in an overall downtrend. Eventually, sellers are going to step back up and take control. So even if we do get a, let's say we do get a good move back up through these levels, just keep in mind it can come straight back down just as quick because of the larger time frames. But yeah, over 650. 614.50. Could see a move towards 628, 633, 641. And then, of course, you got the earnings gap way up here. That is always a possibility. However, if bears continue to sink their teeth and we lose 604, retest 592 to 590 and 573. And then there's the Q1 earnings gap down below. So meta chart isn't as messy as you think it is. It's actually very clean. There's a lot of levels to play off of here. So that's what I'm looking out for as far as meta goes. All right, those are my setups. Again, are bulls going to be able to manage to push us higher, reclaim 68.50, or are we going to continue to see steady selling off? We finally are going to get some economic data, much needed. NVDA earnings on Wednesday. There's a lot of interesting stuff in play this week, so just be mindful of that. Let things open up, and remember, don't be a hero. Don't chase falling knives. If we start to knife, wait for setups, wait for bull flags, wait for certain areas to reclaim, and so forth. You know, use your tools in your toolbox, use your brain, use your eyes. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. I will be here in the Discord. Speaking of the Discord, let me see. We do have some announcements here. If y'all haven't done so, Stock Dad's trading SDTV live. Pay attention to it. We have live stream all day, pretty much all day during the week. But look, we are giving away Lucid Trading funded accounts. We're giving away the swear jar. We're giving away 1 free year of TradeZilla, which is a phenomenal tool. Definitely check it out. My Funded Futures, Amar is back doing his 1K to 10K challenge. So there is so much going on here. We're doing giveaways. The Stockfather is just in the gifting spirit during the holiday season, I guess. But yeah, join us on SDTV live on YouTube. It's phenomenal. We're putting out a lot of free content out there for you guys if you're not part of the Discord. And that way you can see what we are about. All right, take care. Have a great rest of your day. Go watch some football, and I will see you in chat tomorrow. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.